Welcome back to Gerodynamics. Okay, another part in our in my series about who I am politically. Let's go ahead and go to some more. A lot of my opinions are based on how I feel about things based on the Bill of Rights. So we have our we've talked about abortion, our right to life, um, freedom of religion. I do believe that freedom of religion is freedom of religion, not freedom from religion, not freedom for some religions, freedom of religion. So there has to be a really good reason to violate someone's freedom of religion. We've run into some of those, and you it's tough to even say that there's good reasons. But do we allow um, a religion to do, say, the issue of circumcision? I believe that religions should be allowed to circumcise their children. Should they be allowed to marry their children? I do not believe they should be allowed to marry their children. So how do we decide that? That's a deeper conversation. But the ability to allow religions to be unencumbered by the government is paramount. So we have to, everything has to be carefully weighed. Um, I do believe that some religions are more. Um, I don't want to use the word mainstream, but some religions have been around a longer period of time, and they probably get some precedent. As far as they've had these beliefs since before the country was founded. Judaism, Christianity, Islam, um, um, Hinduism, Buddhism. Um, um, you know, so some of these religions predate our country, and so their beliefs should be given deference. I think deference was the word I was looking for. Um, so I believe that, and I don't believe that just because someone believes something that is imposing something on anybody else. So let's say if somebody believes something is a sin, that doesn't mean they are imposing that on someone else, right? So I can believe that we'll start talking about marriage. I do not believe that marriage is anything other than between a man and a woman religiously, but I believe legally that people of the same sex should be allowed to be married. So so between my beliefs that it is a sin to have sex with someone of the same sex, does that mean that someone shouldn't be legally allowed to? No, it doesn't, right? So that's probably what you mean when you say freedom from religion. The problem is that gets expanded upon. So just because I believe it's a sin, I'm not trying to make it illegal, right? I'm not trying to say it should be illegal for people to have sex with someone of the same sex. I believe that it is a sin. So am I wrong, or am I doing something that violates your rights because I believe that? No, I'm not. It's when I try to impose that, when I really do try to say it should be illegal. Okay. And so freedom of religion is freedom of religion. The government shouldn't come in and dictate what religions do. And it's not the government comes in and protects this individual from this other, from religion. So keep that in mind. So the issue of marriage is probably the one that stands out the most. And the problem is the government really shouldn't be involved in marriage at all. But as it stands, it is. And, I've talked about this in the last video. Where are we currently, and where would I like us to be? So currently, government is involved in marriage. That means that people of the same sex need to be allowed to be married. As long as government's involved in marriage, they need to be allowed to be married because that's an equal right. It's not something that should be taken away from the individual to make that choice about their own life. The problem is because the government's involved and says it's legal for two men or two women to marry each other, then they think that they can then impose that on a church that doesn't believe that. That's where we get into the issues where while I believe that a man and a man should be allowed to legally marry, they shouldn't be able to impose that marriage on a church. They shouldn't be able to go to the church and say, well, it's illegal for us to get married, so you have to marry us. No, they don't. You can culturally get married somewhere that agrees with that type of marriage. It's not a marriage in the Catholic Church, so you don't get married in the Catholic Church. That doesn't mean you can't get married. You can go to the courthouse. You can go to what's that one church? The Unitarian Church. There are churches that will marry same-sex couples. Go to one of those churches. There's nothing that says that they shouldn't be allowed to marry you. So go to one of those churches. Go to the state. Go to the courthouse. Go to, get married in Las Vegas. Get married on a boat. Have the boat captain marry you. There's all sorts of options for you where you don't have to tell this church that doesn't agree with it that they have to marry you. Okay, so as long as we can agree on that, then we can agree that the government can stay involved in marriage. I don't think that they should be. I think that the government should completely pull out of marriage, make the issue not as controversial. If you pull the government out of the issue, then as a Catholic person, I have no skin in the game if this other church is deciding to marry whoever they want to marry, as long as it's not animals and not children. As long as it's someone who can consent to the marriage, right? There shouldn't be forced marriages. There has to be two consenting individuals. Heck, I'm really open-minded. There could be three consenting individuals. I wouldn't do that. I don't believe that a marriage is between a man and a woman, or a woman and a man, or a man and 15 wives. But I also think that if every individual in the marriage is a consenting adult, they should be allowed to do that. They're adults. They can make those decisions. Children, they can't make those decisions. That's why I disagree with that. Animals can't make those decisions. That's why I disagree with that. And it's gross. With children, it's gross too, but you know what I'm saying. So the government shouldn't be forcing anything onto anybody. It shouldn't say you can't get married, and it shouldn't say you have to marry them. Does that make sense? Don't force things on people. Just let people live their lives. And if the government got out of marriage, it would be a lot easier for that to happen, right? I think that anybody should be able to enter into a contract with anybody else as long as they're consenting adults. So if you're worried about your rights, if you're worried about who can visit you in the hospital, there should be union contracts, basically, is what they, civil unions. As a Catholic person, I would get married in the Catholic Church, right? But if I want me and my wife to have legal rights to each other's assets, and we want the legal right to be involved in each other's lives at the end of our lives, being able to make decisions about life support and those sorts of things, to be in the hospital with each other, then we should be able to enter into a civil contract for that, a civil union. And if everybody was doing that, then it's equal. It's unequal when you say, well, this contract is called a marriage, and this contract is called a civil union. And for a long time, that was what people argued for, right? Just don't call it marriage. Well, yes, don't call it marriage, but then you can't have marriage too, because then it's not equal. It's different. It's separate. It's like, what did they say? Separate but equal. No, you can't have separate but equal. You have to have equal. And so if we have a situation where the government isn't involved in marriage at all, then you would have a situation where you could have more of a focus on the rights, equal rights, and then I don't get involved in your marriage, and you don't get involved in my marriage, and we all can have civil unions, and we can all have equal rights. Government shouldn't be involved. But since that's not the way it is right now, we have to look at it from this perspective. If the government is involved in marriage, every consenting adult should be allowed to marry each other. You just can't force that onto other people. Okay, so that's my perspective on freedom of religion and on the issue of marriage. I am sure I have offended everybody again. So anyways, hopefully you have a good day. We'll continue doing these. I'm enjoying these, being able to talk about each issue a little longer. All right, everybody, take care. Have a good day.